It's all things MMA on scoreline.ie and KCLR. My name is Ken McGuire. Joined as always in your ears and on the screen. I got the pointing thing right this week with Myles
I get
Price.
it wrong every
It's the opposite, it's the reverse.
uh,
Myles Price of Team Rhino Kilkenny. How are you? How are things?
I can. Yeah, good. Yeah, having a good day. Weather's gone a little bit south now, hasn't it? But sure, look, we'd be well used to it. Be complaining when it's sunny out as well. So
Like we're just
yeah.
a nation of complainers.
Mm.
We're gonna turn the attention to a kind of a core topic around mixed martial arts, and I'm going to get there in a minute. Before I do, and to spring it on you, because we had spoken about it 2 weeks ago. Did you get a chance to see any of Bellator Dublin this past week?
Oh yes, I did actually. I actually stayed up and I because it was on at a reasonable time. Like so,
Yeah.
I watched it. Yeah, I thought it was a very good card. Sorry, I didn't see the results for Brian Moore though. Do you know how Brian Moore gone?
I don't, but I will find that out straight away because I only got to watch Peter Quilly's bout against Benson Henderson, and then obviously the co-main event should have been Yoel Romero and Marvin Manhoff, which
Okay, so
turned out to be an absolute banger of a fight. Maybe a little bit of a slow starter for things, and nice to see Melvin getting the send off that he absolutely deserves.
yeah.
But what did you make of what you saw?
Uh,
Brian
I'll
Moore,
check.
by the way, won a decision
Brilliant,
against De
brilliant,
Silva. Yeah, his
brilliant. Delighted to hear
his
that.
his 14th win of his professional career.
Great. Yeah, Brian's a great guy, great athlete too. So it's good to see that.
So when on the co-main event side of things, you had you had kind of called it as it was. To be fair, you had predicted that Yoel Romero would absolutely smash Manhoff. Maybe didn't look that way in the first half. We did see a couple of knockdowns, but uh, before before the knockout, it was obviously only going one way. How did you see it?
It kind of went the way I thought it was going to go. I thought Manhoff did very well. I thought that he he moved well in certain positions, and do you know, like I don't want to take anything away. I thought just stylistically that was a terrible matchup for him, but I don't
Mhm.
want to take anything away from Melvin Manhoff. I grew up watching him on the Grand K1 Grand Prix when I was a kid, so like he's an amazing athlete. It's just against Romero, that's a big ask, especially against like a big wrestler. So, but he did a lot better than what I thought, and uh, it was great to see him get the send off that he deserved in front of like an electric Irish crowd like that because he deserves it. He's a legend of the game. Anyone that has known or been a fan of martial arts for any length of period would know that.
Yeah, I think anybody who knows Irish fans at all in any sport, we're great. We're a great bunch for giving people a proper send off for things. For the main event, Peter Queally and Benson Henderson, you had thought at the time that Benson would just have too much in terms of experience and in terms of the level of where he has been at and where he is at currently for Queally. And it looked that way. And I'm not like it's not a slight on Peter at all, and maybe I was misreading the fight as watching it, but I felt that he didn't really offer much, or didn't offer as much at least that he could have done. It seemed to be maybe more frustration for him and a little bit more one-way traffic for Henderson.
Yeah, I felt like that as well, to be honest with you. That I thought when Peter was coming forward, I thought he was doing very well when momentum was on his side. But yeah, I really don't feel like he's changed a lot since I fought him. Really, they're the kind of weaknesses that I applied in my game plan against him was get him on the back foot. He's good defensive wrestler, but he tends to coast against defense, his back against defense. So make sure he's not on the front foot at any stage because he builds a lot in confidence from that. And he is a good striker too, and he's durable. But stick him on the back foot, push him up against the fence, you'll win the fight. And that's what Henderson did. So I just think he coasted a little bit on the fence. And but look, he went to 5-5s against Ben Henderson. He's an ex-UFC champion. Like I know, but Peter's had a great career. Like I mean, like the whole of the Tree Arena was electric for him. Like and Like, he should leave with his head high. It's disappointing that he got the loss, of course, but it's hard to know where he's going to go from here. He might retire. He might move on to some other fights. Like Bellator are always going to push Peter and look after him, like, so why not? Yeah. They're not going to push any other guys really, unless it's like Kieran Clark or Brian Moore or any of these guys, because the likes of Pedro Carvalho and all, like, they're good guys, but they're not Irish born. They're looking to promote Irish born and represent an Irish kind of like up that McGregor route kind of thing, athletes.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens. It was Bellator 285. It was this past weekend. There is a couple of fight nights coming up for the UFC in the next few weeks before we get to 280 and 281, the big pay-per-views heading into the autumn side of things. But we'll look at those in due course. What I wanted to talk about this week, and it's been brought up in the office in here. It's like, oh, you're having Myles on. Would you mind asking him this? And would you mind asking him that? So you kind of get to be the MMA kind of agony uncle now at this stage, as weird and all as it seems. But it probably takes things back to fundamentals, and it's something that we wouldn't have touched on from like way back in like early pandemic times when we started doing the whole podcast side of things. In terms of MMA, Myles, and mixed martial arts in general, somebody sees it and somebody goes, I'd like to have a crack at it, and they don't know what to do. So we know that you run classes, and we know that you coach, and we know that you've had a long and feathered career in the pro game side of things, and you've run promotions, and you've run and you've booked fights as well, and you're quite the student of the game. So somebody that's coming into you like completely cold. Maybe it's somebody that was in the office here. It's not going to be me. Somebody that's come into it completely cold and says to you, "I'd like to be a fighter." What do you do with that person? I mean, what do you sit down and have a conversation and go, okay, well, let's examine the reasons why you think you want to be a fighter, or do you go, okay, you want to do this? Now we can start to work on this. I mean, for a complete and utter newbie, how does it work?
So are you referencing a young man that's coming in looking for direction and goes, I want to be a professional fighter for a job to make money?
I mean, that could be a thing. I mean, we see a lot of people kind of go, okay, I want some of that McGregor money. I want some of that kind of, whoever's the big name. I want to be the guy in 5 years' time who's on TV, who's driving flashy cars, who's doing this, that, and the other. Or it could be the guy who's just, I just want to learn how to do this. Maybe they've watched it. Maybe they've grown up watching it. Maybe they hear it's cool. I don't know, but just from a complete beginner's point of view, what do you do with that person?
Well, I have a group of young lads that are very much like that. The likes of Cale Brennan, Luke Stowe, Bill Hayes, Thomas Costigan. There's a lot of young lads who are very much like that. And my advice is always to them is, one, do it for the right reasons. Do it for reasons that are more so along the lines of internal as opposed to external. A bypass of the things that come along with competing is the materialistic things that come with it. But they're very shallow, and they don't hold a lot of character and a lot of depth. So if you're doing this, you have to make sure that you're doing it because you're interested in the development throughout the journey of who you are as a person. And a bypass of that is the performances, the wins, and the materialistic things. The mindset should always be that, like the Stoics, you could live with very minimalistic things. A lot of the Stoics were like that anyway. Very minimalistic things and very grateful for everything that you have, as opposed to reaching out for things that you think that you want. But it's like, so basically making sure the young men don't fall onto the hedonic treadmill, which a lot of people in society do, a lot of young men fall into. And, when they get to that mirage, they figure out that, it's not all sunshine and lollipops. They're just looking for the bigger, flashier toy all the time. So that's the first thing. The first thing is that you have to do it for the right reasons. If you're doing it for money, then this is not your game. Go to college, do an office job, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Second is you cannot rely wholeheartedly on being a fighter. Like, you have to have some sort of a backup. So, a lot of the time, like, say the people that work in my facility that use the facility, they are athletes and they've morphed the lifestyle around that. That's why we have a great community in our gym. A lot of it isn't people that are coming from very different backgrounds. A lot of the guys that train in our gym and personal trainer of our gym are first and foremost martial artists. And then they go off and they do courses, they get their insurances, etc. And then they personal train to other people, martial arts or fitness, etc. So it's working into their lifestyle. So you can't just wholeheartedly say, I want to be a fighter. You have to have something on the sidelines and it makes you a better athlete as well. Because if you have that security there, you can always commit a little bit more to being an athlete because you don't have as much to lose, because you can fall back on something. You have to have a fallback. So one is, are you doing it for the right reasons? Internal, not external, something that has real meaning and purpose. Two is always have a backup. You cannot be a full-time athlete and perform at your best potential unless you have something to fall back on, So they're the first two things I'd be talking about. And then, what falls under those umbrellas is like integrity, core values. Like they're the things that you learn from martial arts that mean something, that you bring into the things that really matter in life, like your community, the people who are in your very close circle, like your wife, your parents, your brothers. You're becoming a better of all those things to them, and that gives you a more content life. So you learn integrity within martial arts. That's very important. You're learning integrity, you're learning respect, you're learning values, you're learning to concentrate and pay attention. You're obviously getting fit as well. So there's a lot of things that you get with doing martial arts. But if you're looking to be a competitor, you have to be doing it for the right reasons, and you need a backup plan.
Should you be comfortable with getting hit in the face?
That's something that
simple question, but you would imagine, and it's like I remember like boxing sparring for the first time, and I took one in the side of the jaw, and I'm like, oh Jesus, that's going to sting for a while. You're not expecting it, but the part of the sport is a boxing element. We might kind of touch and talk our way through the different elements of the mixed martial arts side of things, but is there like is that something that you would say to somebody coming in the door? It's like, okay, look, we've ticked the box on, we know where you're coming from and what your aims and ambitions are for the sport, or how we think that you'll fit in, or how you might address it, or your reasoning for getting involved in it, be it for the greater good, be it for your mental health, be it for your physical health and your fitness. But there's those little kind of basics where on the outside, if you're watching it on TV, you go, you better be ready because somebody's going to put a fist in your face, and this is going to happen. So I mean, where does that conversation come in? Do people find it kind of shocking at the start? Is it something that people just get used to? Is it something that you're trained towards, or how does it work?
That's called developing your stone face. That's what that's called in martial arts. So obviously having like a statue head, like like stone face. So that comes from drills, actually, specific drills. So say for instance, if I'm with a partner, I'm partner A and partner B is here, and say partner B is working like head movement right to left, and I'm trying to be nice and not hit him, and I'm throwing over this way or throwing over that way, like, in order to develop a stone face, somebody needs to be trying to directly hit you straight in the face. So when you're doing drills, you try and not be too much in rhythm. You have to be a little bit off rhythm so that you're working instincts and reactions, and somebody's throwing directly at your face, and you're trying to keep your eyes open as you're seeing them and slipping the shots just outside. And that actually develops over time. Like when I take a bit of, like, say even yesterday I was sparring, my stone face is gone a little bit because I haven't sparred in 4 weeks. So I'm leaning a little bit out of the way. I'm blinking, and I've been professional for years. So it's like, it's something that you have to kind of top up all the time. And it is something you can develop. It's not one of those things that you go, if I get hit in the face and I don't like it, I'm not an athlete. It's just one of those things that if you give it a chance and it's something you want to do, then it will be developed. Yeah, sure.
Talk to me a little bit about the mixed element of it, because you hear people talk about being an all-round fighter. He's good on the ground.
Yeah.
He's good on his feet. He's got good striking. He's got good wrestling, or she's got good striking. She's got a great ground game. There's there's a lot of different elements that are involved. It's not just like, you go out and you play rugby, and rugby is this. You go out and you play football, and football is this. You got to be good with your feet. You got to have a bit of pace in it. Talk to me about for the uninitiated, the mixed element of mixed martial arts, because there's a lot of different disciplines at play, and then you've obviously got to put them all into the one package.
So I think it's important to be experimental when you're doing martial arts. Like if you're coming fresh into the gym, sometimes people would see Brazilian jiu-jitsu because it's very mainstream now. A lot of celebrities do it. So like Tom Hardy competed at the weekend there. Like some James Smith, the likes of that Sinead Hegarty, the kind of the Instagram influencers for fitness. A lot of people do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So that's usually the one that people generally tend to gravitate towards.
Yeah.
But what I would say is it's important to experiment. Try a kickboxing class or try a mixed martial arts class, the fundamental ones, and try the jiu-jitsu fundamentals. Give it a shot for a couple of classes and then see which one you gravitate towards. Because sometimes, you don't really know what you want, what you really want. Sometimes you just have an idea. Like what's Slavoj Zizek? He's a psychoanalyst and philosopher. He kind of talks about that quite a lot like that. There's one solid rule in psychoanalysis is that we as a species don't really want what we think we want a lot of the time. It's just, that's a conscious level thing. It's not a subconscious level thing. So I think it's always important to have that growth mindset to just tip in to different things, give it a chance, and then you'll gravitate towards what's right for you.
Can somebody who's looking at classes and say again, know that, okay, this is what you do, or any other gym in Carlow or Wexford or Waterford or Dublin or wherever they are in the country or globally. I just like throw that one in there. You never know what people are listening. They come along and they go, okay, well, I see MMA classes are being advertised. I'd love to do that because I know what MMA is. Can you get into it to a point where it's like, maybe you only want to do it for the fitness side of things, but you don't want to do it for the fighting side of things or for the contact side of things? I mean, is there a way in, or do you get many people that will say, oh yeah, I will train in this, but I have no intention of ever stepping into a cage or ever getting into a fight? Or do you find that more people are coming to you going, I'm doing this because the end result is
usually young athletes that come in, they're the ones that are like, and you just know the types as well. The types when they come in, like the Ryan Mangans. It's like, no, like this is my life. Like, you know what I mean? They have it kind of fixed. And then like, generally, general population tend to come in and tend to do that. They tend to mix up with different things, So yeah, it just really comes down to what floats your boat, what suits you best. Usually if you want to be like, if you want to make a career out of being a martial artist, and career, what I mean by career is it doesn't need to be very black and white, and I'm referencing, my lifestyle here, and the lifestyles of the people that train in the gym and work out with the gym, the work-life lifestyle, where if you want to have that lifestyle, then you can make money from fighting, but you make money from this, like personal training, teaching classes. this, that, and the other as well. You know, there's lots of avenues with martial arts, but that's usually the case when young men come in, or people that do martial arts so obsessively that it just like, I can't do anything else other than this anymore. You know? And then there's some people that want martial arts to complement their life. So, you know, it's usually those two. Like, somebody wants martial arts to complement their life so they become a better version of themselves and to others, or they're just gung-ho 100%, like, you know, I'm making a career of this, and the auxiliaries that come with it, you know.
Yeah. Is it still a male dominated side of things? Do we see more female interest that's coming into it? I mean, like, you go back to the Bellator card, some good female fighters on the card. Leah McCourt was in there. We've seen Sinead Kavanagh fighting under Bellator of late. Watched Chris Cyborg boxing at the weekend. Watched Paige Van Zandt. She's gone on and done. Like, I know these are kind of like household names within that industry, but obviously there's a rise in the female side of things as well. Has that translated even locally?
Definitely with the women, yeah. Actually, our two best competitors at the moment is Paige Waters and Jenny. Jenny, I actually don't know if Jenny's. I don't actually know Jenny's second name. I know her name on Instagram is Wardo. I don't think that's her actual name. I think that's just like a tag. So sorry, Jenny, if you're listening to this. I'm insulting Jenny on the radio. Anyway. So yeah, well, it's mainly Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that bring in the female side of things. It's not really mixed martial arts, because it is very niche martial arts. Mixed martial arts is, you know, like, you're not going to get a lot of females that are into that, because it's just a male dominant sport. That's just the way it is, you know. Unfortunately, I'd like to see more women doing it, but Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like there's loads of women doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We have 5 or 6 women that are very consistent, and there's 3 or 4 that kind of come in and out and float around, like, you know. So, and there's like a community in our gym of women that go off and have coffees together and do open mats together and go to seminars together. So it's definitely more of a thing in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu side of things than anywhere else. And because of all the things I mentioned, but also the self-defense side of things as well, you know, like, you know, women want to have that confidence that if the bigger, stronger person, be it male or female, and they're in a life-threatening situation, they do have a chance to get out of there safely, you know, because they're so used to dealing on a weekly basis with larger, stronger opponents. So,
do you need a certain level of fitness getting into it? So again, I'm the guy that comes in and I say, hey, I want to be a fighter. I want to train in mixed martial arts. And you're looking at me going, you need to get back out the door and do a few laps before you come in here? Or is it that, like, the fitness comes with it? How do you...
It's actually the opposite, really, like, you know, and I fall into this mindset as well. Again, I always like leading from the front in regards to mindsets. Like, it's very natural for people to always, when you get unfit, to go, I need to be a certain fitness to do this thing, because, you know, by nature as well, we're quite self-critical, and we have high expectations of ourselves. So we always go, well, if I'm doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I'm doing it. You know, I'm not going to half-arse it. It's all in, all out. But the fact of the matter is that going for a couple of runs is the same as going in and doing a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class. And you can go at your own pace. It's the same as doing a run. If you want to go with your own pace on a run, like, you can do that. You're in complete control. And the same can be said for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You know, you can really go at your own pace. If that is your form of fitness that you enjoy doing, then you should indulge in that form of fitness. And there shouldn't be a limitation because of what shape you're in or what's going on in your life. That's where the stop starts come, you know. And usually I'll get fit before I do the thing that I want to do, usually ends up turning into something that you never really do. So it's just having to lower your expectations and go, look, I know I was here before, or with fitness level, but I'm going to go in here with very low expectations and just build myself up slowly. The same way you would with a run, you know. It's the same thing. It's just, you got to trust in that process when you're in there in a group community, especially in a martial arts gym. In a martial arts gym, there's no real egos, you know. And if there is, they're very quickly checked by me. So because everybody needs to work together and everybody needs to understand and respect their partners. And you do have that in martial arts gyms where they go, look, I'm just a beginner, or usually the higher level belt will understand that too. And they just flow with you and they let you learn and exercise your thinking while getting fit at your own pace, you know?
Okay. Is age just a number?
Yeah, definitely, 100%, especially in jiu-jitsu. I know people that have come in to start Brazilian jiu-jitsu with me in their 50s, and they've gone out and they've done a few competitions for the crack and they've come out with gold medals. So age is for sure just a number. Yeah.
Nice. On the MMA side of things, and I'll leave it at this before it turns into an absolute kind of counseling questions and answer session. Talk me through a typical MMA training session. So
MMA, just MMA.
Just on the MMA side of things. I mean, what
Okay.
like so somebody needs they get the idea and they've come through and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, but there's obviously steps involved. So when you are starting out, what are those steps? What would a typical training session involve? How long is it? What would you be doing?
For a pure beginner or an advanced athlete or somebody?
Pure beginner, pure Johnny walking in off the street and goes, I'm gonna give this a go.
So Johnny, when he gets into class, would start off with kind of movements that complement jiu-jitsu. So we do things like hip escapes or rolls or, some sort of gorilla walks, animal style movements, just to get like baseline stuff sorted, and movements that really complement what you actually do in a Brazilian jiu-jitsu role. It's kind of like that indirect conditioning to, oh yeah, I do this in my warm-up. Like over a space of like a 12-week period, you end up just doing those techniques in your warm-up live in a role. So you'll do about 15-20 minutes of that, and then you'll get into your main technique, which would be no more than 3 techniques. Like at the max it would be 3 techniques, and then
this is to like learn a technique under demonstration, or
learn a technique under demonstration. So after your warm-up, you learn technique under your demonstration from the instructor in the middle of the mat area, and you get to practice that technique for 15-20 minutes again. And then at the end of class, you'll get the opportunity to kind of just do what you'd like within the rule set of jiu-jitsu and within the rule set, of course, of your belt grade. And the important thing is that the technique that you just learned, trying to apply it in a live situation, not that the fastest route to improving in the live training is not going to your go-tos or your physical attributes all the time. So if I'm good at arm bars, I'm constantly going for arm bars, or I'm big and they're small, so I use all my strength to squeeze the life out of them and just hold them there, which is kind of the easy route. Like you're picking easy routes there. The rewarding stuff comes from, let's try and exit my comfort zone and maybe give this new technique a go against a resisting opponent a couple of times and just see how it goes from there, and just keep applying it over and over again. And the way I see it over time is like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is like developing a video game character on Street Fighter or something. It's like you have to pick your own characteristics and get rid of things that don't suit your body type and personality, and keep in what you like. There's no set structure. A little bit of a conservative in the fundamentals course where it's strict. You know what I mean? It's like you have to learn these things. Like these are the things that apply from white belt to black belt. And then as you get into the advanced classes, you have more of a libertarian mindset, where you should be your own individual. You should shed what doesn't work and you should keep what does,
So in that vein, if that's in a typical training session, could you take from that then that your Brazilian jiu-jitsu game and training is very much a fundamental part of your overall mixed martial arts training?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And then lastly, what would it so if that's one session, what would a typical training week look like for somebody on the MMA side?
Johnny.
For Johnny again, for our newcomer. Let's say he's going to train. He can do twice a week, and twice a week is loads for some people in this day and age. Maybe three if he's really lucky. Maybe he's a regular gym goer, or Jenny's a regular gym goer, and they decide that they're going to switch and move into that. What would a typical training week look like?
Typical training week would be twice a week jiu-jitsu. Like, we have a fundamentals course that's tonight at 8, so that would be fundamentals. And I'd always say that to go into another class, so twice a week is perfect, and maybe once a week of yoga is good. I always promote yoga because I just think yoga is great for mental health, mobility, flexibility, and it's a fun way to do it. I just don't think you can beat the likes of 2 jiu-jitsu sessions a week and a yoga session a week. Just great for body and mind. It really is, and going into, I really don't like the term beginners and advanced. I really don't think there's such a thing as beginners and advanced. I think there's high percentage techniques and low percentage techniques. So sometimes when people are in the fundamentals courses, I may have to go in and give a pep talk and go, guys, there's no scary monsters in the advanced class. You're not going to go in and everybody's going to start tearing the head off you. It's actually quite the opposite. It's just the techniques are a little bit more advanced. So just take what you can from them and get in and start rolling with the more experienced guys. Because I believe it or not, the more experienced guys are actually the guys that are going to teach you a lot while you feel them, while you're rolling and while you're getting into flow with them. Like, the advanced guys are always going to teach you something that you didn't know before without saying anything to you. So it's really important to go in and feel that, because that's where your game's going to go up really fast.
Nice one. On that note, I think we'll park it. I like the idea of maybe framing this series in a kind of or framing the discussion as part of the series, like, do you want to be a fighter, or so you want to be a fighter? So we might come back. We might come back to this again and look at what would happen, Johnny, a couple of weeks down the line, and see.
His name's Johnny.
His name is Johnny. His name is Johnny now. We'll get him a T-shirt, and see what the story is. But this has been most insightful. For you, Myles, what's on the cards? How's the week looking, or anything major coming up? You've got Chaos Grappling coming up as well. Is that this weekend?
I'm going to Liverpool on Friday with Ryan. We're going to Grapple Fest. He's competing on that. Yeah, have 24 kids competing on the Irish Open this weekend. We have 4 competitors. We have 2 males, 2 females. Igor is one of our brown belts. We have Owen, who's a purple belt, who trains out of the gym, and Paige and Jenny, the 2 killers. So yeah, busy weekend competition wise for the fam, the fit fam, the martial arts fam.
Excellent, good stuff. Well, look at best luck to everybody that's involved. If people want to get in touch, what's the best way to do it?
Team Rhino Kilkenny Instagram page. Hook us up there.
Excellent. Well, he has been Myles Price. I have been Ken McGuire. This has been All Things MMA for scoreline.ie and for Casey Lore.
I got it.
Do it all over again. This way. We'll do
it
all over again next week. Until then, good luck.